Hi, I'm Alfonso Muchacho, and today I'm going to show you how to make these two ludicrously big sounds. First, the bass line. Then this drone. So both of these sounds are going to be made in Diva, and no, I'm not sponsored by Yuhi, I just love their synths. So let's dive right in and get this bass line made. This came about as I was trying to make a big techno lead, but it ended up becoming a bass line. Sometimes things just go that way. Because I was initially going for a melody, it started off with this second saw shape. This is more bite than the regular saw. Take a listen to the difference. So you don't need to worry about the pulse wave or anything like that, but we will make sure that the sub-oscillator is on the most of the square waves. And then we're going to dial in the level to about halfway. This is really what gives the sound some beef. The higher the slider, the more beef you're going to get. I also like to have the noise at around about the same level. It helps thicken the sound slightly, but where it really is noticeable is when you open the filter up and you can hear it in all its noisy glory. Okay, because we're not playing games here, let's crank the feedback all the way to 11. We're not going for subtlety with this bass line. So that's enormous. Let's get a bit of control over this sound and bring the filter down to around about 77. We're going to add a bit of resonance, around 16, just to emphasize the cutoff a bit. Let's bring up the keyboard setting around about 40. This means that the higher we play on the keys, the more the filter will open. As with everything, the envelope is where the magic happens. We'll want envelope 2 to affect the filter slightly, so let's dial that in to about 35. Next, I'm going to change the envelopes to the analog setting. This probably doesn't matter a whole lot, but it's just my personal preference. The main envelope I'll set to 0 attack, 39 decay, 0 sustain, and 37 release. This will give us a punchy sound that cuts off soon after it begins, perfect for stabby bass sounds. Envelope 2 is really important. The attack is staying at 0. The decay should be set to 61. We'll have a sustain of 0 as well, and a release, let's go for 100. These will all be subtle as the filter isn't being affected hugely by this envelope, but it does all add up. Finally, for this section, we're going to go full velocity, and the key follow should be set to about halfway as well. Something I probably should have done at the start, set the mode to legato. We don't want a poly bass. So that's the basis for our sound. Where it really comes to life is in the effects. And first we're going to go for the somewhat unloved rotary effect. I don't see many people using this, but let's live dangerously. All I'm going to do is change from the default settings. I'm just going to crank up the drive knob and let's set that to about 3/4 of the way up. Next, let's add a plate reverb for a bit of space. So we're nearly there. All we have left now is to add Live's overdrive effect. We'll bring the center frequency down so it's hitting the bass notes and dial the wet dry control down to about 13. So let's take a listen to our overdriven monster. It's got that low end thump and a lot of harmonic information up top, and you only need to open that filter slightly to get even crazier, and of course we will. Next up is this huge drone that I call Techno Town. We're going to use the Moog emulation for this. All 3 voices for maximum techno. All 3 are going to be saw waves. The first we'll set to 16, the second to 8, and the third to 4. So they're all playing at different octaves. I'm going to detune them slightly to get even more width. We'll go for plus 0.24 and we'll dial the other one down to minus 11.68, something like that. In terms of volume, the lowest note should be around 69, the middle oscillator set to the maximum, and the highest oscillator to 43. Let's take a listen to what we have so far. Utterly ridiculous. Sounds like a traffic jam in hell. Okay, so to take it further, let's get a bit of feedback, around 30, and then we'll add some pink noise to thicken it up even further, and we'll have that at around 64. Let's head over to the filter now, and let's try to tame some of this insanity. We'll set that to about 122, and keep the emphasis all the way down, and set the keyboard knob to around 62. We'll change the mod depth to minus 32. Set that to LFO 1. And finally, this little envelope mod, drop that down to about minus 40-ish. Oh yes, now we are cooking. Remember, it's all about the filter mod, always. Let's get into the envelopes. In terms of the amplitude, we'll go for an attack of 26, K about 33, sustain 80. We'll leave the release off. This will give us a slight fade in so the sound doesn't punch us right in the face immediately. Next up is the filter. So we want an attack of about 31, decay 45, sustain 100, release left off, and we'll crank the velocity knob to the max as well. Let's take a listen to what that all means. Okay, we're nearly at our finished sound. In the top left, we'll set the envelope to tune mod to 15. And then let's go down into the LFO. The settings here are as follows. Delay 26. Rate 1.6. And 4/1. We'll have the rate mod at 0.6. And we'll use the mod wheel for that. This will cause the sound to wobble like crazy when we move the mod wheel. Take a listen to this. Wobbly. Okay, just a couple more things. Let's set the mode to legato. We'll want the priority to be last. And let's set the vibrato to 40. And then we'll turn the glide up to about 34 as well. Finally, we're left with just the effects. Let's turn on both delay and plate reverb. We can mess around with these settings if we want, but in all honesty, we're pretty much there. Let's take a listen to our finished melody. Stupidly big. Okay, it's time for some fun. I'm going to play around with the automation and see what comes out. So you can hear how these two sounds complement each other, but a word of caution. If you use them both in the same track at the same time like I have, there's practically no room for anything else. I guess that's the point of dark techno, big bold sounds that are in your face. As ever, let me know in the comments what other sounds you'd like me to cover, and I'll see you next time.